everyone, to the latest installment in our Southwestern Career Connections digital series. I'm Cameron Wood, Public Relations Intern at Southwestern Community College, and today my co-host is Michael Despo, our Director of Career Services. And today we're here to provide some real hope and real opportunities to anyone who's recently become unemployed or is struggling to find jobs due to the current pandemic. So before we go ahead and get started, just a few quick reminders for those of you that are joining us live. If you'll please keep your microphones muted and just type any questions you have into the chat box in the upper right section. And we'll get to a few of those before we wrap up. We also want to make sure that you know we are recording today's conversation. So to dive right in, today's show is going to focus on becoming essential, not only to be secure in a job, but also to be an essential part of the daily lives of those in need. So we've invited Donna Connor today, who oversees our Nurse Aide program, which does just that. It trains our SCC students to be those essential caretakers. So Donna is going to give us some insight into the high demand for nurses and nurse aides today. Not only are nursing jobs available practically everywhere, but the global pandemic has had a huge effect on the need for those dependable nurse aides all around the world. So also joining us today is Administrator Jessica Ledford from Smoky Mountain Health and Rehabilitation Center, and she'll provide an in-depth look at how nurse aides are important in her industry and how things are changing throughout this pandemic as well. So go ahead and start. So since this pandemic began, essential and non-essential jobs have been defined and divided like never before. So Mike, can you talk to us a little bit about what really makes an essential position and a non-essential position?
Sure, I'd love to address that. As a career services professional with who works with college students across our curriculum, this is a really key thing to me as I think about how our program supports our students, and so and also our alumni. And to begin with, I'd just say that the word, non-essential is a little bit of a misnomer, because as we know that I think across all community college students in our system, well over 70% have been polled and report that their income has been affected by the pandemic in some way, shape, or form, whether they've lost jobs or been furloughed or laid off until better times, or just had reductions in hours. And so that's important, because as we know, an income and job stability is always essential to the job holder. Those of us who support ourselves and our families and pay for our tuition and buy groceries, we need jobs. So all jobs are essential, and I just want to be really clear about that. When we use the word essential jobs, though, in this climate, we're often talking about jobs that support our communities, and not just those persons and families, and jobs that are critical. And we've looked at a number of those in this podcast and video cast over the spring and the summer. Some are in energy, and we need to turn the lights on. We've certainly, regarding healthcare, we've met with Steve Heatherly, our CEO of Harris Regional Hospital, and looked at all healthcare jobs across the board, which are certainly essential positions, and then other things like that you might not immediately think of, but automotive. We've got to keep our fleet on the road, and we've just looked across these different sectors, small business as well. But when I think of, and when you think of essential jobs, if you're not feeling well, if you're sick, or if you have special needs, or if you're in a facility where you're receiving care, there really isn't a job any more essential than a nurse of any kind. I think that nurses, to those that they help, are truly critical, parts of that greater machine, whether it's supply chain or healthcare or anything. We need our nurses, and we train nurses of all kinds, nurses aides and assistants and other support type of healthcare professionals at SCC, and we're going to hear all about that today. And so, I'm just really excited that we have this opportunity to showcase this often under-recognized or underappreciated, really, really important role in our society. And I'm real proud to be part of an institution that trains them too.
So even though, as you say, all jobs are essential, these essential positions that we consider now are ones that are really driving the economic outlook for our country. And I think it's safe to say that you want to be in those essential positions. So in the healthcare field, as somebody who's always on top of the latest employment trends on kind of a broad scale, Mike, what is the outlook for those pursuing careers in healthcare? And are more healthcare sectors and offices hiring now?
Oh gosh, yes. There are some temporary retractions in some areas of healthcare with elective procedures that have been, I think they're coming back pretty quickly now, but as protocols have been established and people just need that care. Gosh, I can speak as a career services person who posts these jobs and and who works with students, with Donna's students, and I can say that there isn't a more secure type of a role than being a nurse's aide. I post positions almost every week, and there is a difficult. We're going to hear a lot more about that from our employer and our faculty, but it's a hard job to do, and so people sometimes there's some turnover, and there just are always opportunities. If you secure this degree and certification from SCC, you're almost guaranteed work, and you're guaranteed continuity of work. And I'm not encouraging anybody to job hop and move from place to place, but you're even guaranteed, variety of work. I could change my job from Silva to Franklin to Asheville to Bryson City tomorrow if I had this certification, because there's such a need. I think we'll hear some verification of that.
So with that ability to move around, not only right now, having that stability of being able to get a job in a climate that jobs are kind of scarce, what kind of long-term security does that provide, these positions in healthcare?
Well, they're employed by lots of different sectors of healthcare. So there's job security and that type of diversity of employment. But there's also, how they say with real estate, they're never making any more dirt. Well, we're all getting older, and we're all going to have these needs. It's like disabilities. I mean, if you don't have one, you will eventually, and we'll all need help at some point in our lives. And we're going to visit with an employer today who provides some of that help, and we're going to visit with our faculty member who trains students to provide it. And I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't see anything other than an increasing need over the years. So,
Thank you, Mike.
sure.
Donna, we'll go ahead and turn to you, and thanks again for joining us today. So before we dive into your field that you train our students for at SCC, I understand that nurse aides are not only limited exclusively to hospitals or assisted living facilities. What are some of the multitude of options for employment as a nurse aide?
Good morning. In addition to hospitals and to assisted living facilities, of course, we have the nursing homes, which are a very big market for CNAs because we have a lot of people there that can't provide personal care for themselves. But things that we don't think about are like hospice agencies that CNAs are the ones, a lot of times they're holding hands, as people meet their end of life. In addition, correctional institutions, rehabilitation centers, doctor's offices and clinics, like the drive-through COVID clinics that are so big right now, are largely staffed by nursing assistants. In addition, we have like the cancer centers, dialysis centers, urgent care centers, and last but not least, we try really hard to keep people in their own homes for as long as possible. So home care is a very big entity.
Great. So it sounds like there's no lack of ability for anybody training to be a nurse aide to find places to be able to work, and it sounds like a great variety. So Donna, in your program, how have you had to adjust not only your instructional methods due to the pandemic, but what material have you had to change? And is there anything else that you've had to add and adjust to be more prepared for the pandemic and going forward?
First of all, back in March, whenever Southwestern Community College was on our spring break, and I was fortunate enough to be on the Outer Banks for a week's vacation with my family, and got news that the college was pretty much shut down. So a big portion of that week's vacation was spent with transitioning the nurse aide class to allow students to continue to be educated and to not stop their process, because they are such a valuable asset that the Department of Health and Human Services and the North Carolina Board of Nursing said, no, we can't stop this educational entity because these people are definitely essential and we need them. So I did work hard getting the class portion of the nurse aide 1 class online. In addition to that, our labs, which we always do here in the simulation lab at the college, you would think, well, that's not a lot of difference. But when you look at every student and instructor having to be masked, have a mask on, stay 6 feet away from everyone, wear gloves even when you're feeding someone, or you're walking someone, you're doing those real personal care items. That was difficult because you can't do personal care 6 feet away. But we've adapted, we've adjusted. We try really hard not to stay within 6 feet of one another for the regulations, I think, say 10 minutes, but we've even tried to be safer and cut that in half. So a 5-minute period. And then we move on to our clinical component of the Nurse Aide 1 class. Typically, we were blessed and honored to be able to go into our different local facilities, and Miss Jessica's facility being one of those. And we can't do that anymore. Instead, we're in the simulation lab trying to bring in that holistic aspect when they never really get to be at the bedside with a client. So I think that's the one really big drawback, is they don't get that personal, that heart connection with the facilities and with the facility staff, with the residents, with their family members. So there's a big chunk that really needs to be right there in the middle that, unfortunately, all we can do is make up scenarios and try to bring that to light.
So even through all of those challenges, with a more impersonal take on the nurse aide field, which is not an impersonal job, a lot of changes coming through with COVID. So how has that impacted your students' drive? Do you think that there's a kind of call to action now, wanting to be in the nursing industry and in the healthcare field to help those in need due to COVID, as it's more in the media light and everything? Do you think that there's more demand for students wanting to join your program, or do you think there will be?
I do think that there's always a very high demand. Our facilities, I think every day, day in, day out, we need CNAs. And that's been notorious through my 35-year history with nursing. Nursing shortage was a real big issue, but CNA shortage, I think, is really the big shortage there. But I think that nurse aides have continue to receive regular employment. There's opportunity for more increased employment, because facilities have been gearing themselves up to handle what is to come, because we have to be proactive instead of procrastinating and trying to pull ourselves out of a bind. As far as the students, I think there's a lot of ambivalence and uncertainty, because there's the fear of that unknown. If they have small children at home, elderly parents at home, if someone's immunosuppressed, that's a big concern in in making sure or trying to assure that they don't carry that back into their own household. But I'm proud to say that this summer we're now wrapping up. We have a total right now of 24 students this semester that have either finished or in the next couple of weeks will finish. But looking on to fall semester, we've got a couple of weeks of registration still to go, and we already have 26 students enrolled for the fall semester. But keep them coming, because if need be, if those fill up, I'll find the people to teach them. We'll add another class on.
Outstanding.
That's so encouraging to hear. I'm glad that it sounds like our graduates, even through all of this, are still going to be just as prepared and just as ready to dive into the field and get on the front lines. So thank you, Donna, for your insight into how our program is adapting and through all of the changes. Thank you. So now I'd like to go ahead and welcome our guest for today, Jessica Ledford from Smoky Mountain Health and Rehabilitation Center. Jessica, could you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. And I just want to thank you guys for, today I'm not only representing Smoky Mountain Health and Rehabilitation Center, one of your local nursing facilities, but the long-term care industry as a whole. So just a little bit about, I think just to specify what a nursing home is really important. Because I think that the stigma that's been around for a really long time, people think of nursing homes as, proverbial rest homes and places where elderly go. And that is somewhat true, but we are also known as skilled nursing facilities. And what that means is that we do a lot of different things. The two main parts being short-term rehabilitation. So when folks leave the hospital, they come to skilled nursing facilities when they can't go from hospital to home. So that means that, we get people from the hospital anywhere from 1 day to 30 days to a few months, depending on their level of acuity and how long it takes them to get back to a level where they can go home. And then the other side of skilled nursing is that we do long-term care. And so this is more of your traditional, what people think about as a nursing home is, the elderly go there to live out the rest of their days. And so I think that's really important to note, because there's two vastly different things that we have here. We have people that come for a week or two, and then we also have folks that are there. We have residents that have been here for 20 plus years. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And again, there's a lot of preconceived notions, and I even had those before I got into the nursing home field about what it actually entails.
So as patients and clients are leaving, going from hospital and stopping, their kind of midpoint before home, or some for their long-term care, what kind of role do nursing specifically play at your facility or facilities like yours?
Caregiving is the most difficult job in the world. And if you've ever done it, you will know why. So our nurse aides, and I think Aide, is very telling of what that position means. And it's assisting folks, it's helping others. And so, whatever level a person is at, a resident, like you said, whether it's short-term rehab or long-term care, our aides are there to help that person live their best life in whatever capacity they can on a day-to-day basis. It's really hard to define what type of role, and Donna can tell you this, is it changes daily. It changes sometimes by the hour. You have to be a friend, a caregiver, a family member now, and we'll get into how COVID's changed things, but it's kind of just an all-encompassing helper role that is not easily defined, and it's a big job.
It sounds like it. You touched on the COVID regulations, things Donna touched on as well, making things a little more impersonal and just harder to work around. Being that caregiver personally, outside of 6 feet becomes difficult. How have you seen those roles change and adapt with patients in that relationship due to the COVID regulations?
Yeah, so we're approaching 5 months of being under the COVID regulations. And just for, there's about 400 plus facilities in North Carolina, just to tell you how many skilled nursing facilities alone are in North Carolina. And in that first 30 to 60 days, the guidance came out so quickly and things changed so quickly. It was really hard for us to keep up. I will say probably the biggest change, aside from wearing, these masks all day and PPE, is that, nursing homes are people's home, whether it's one day or 20 years. And the most difficult thing that we've had to do is close our doors, close our doors to students, close our doors to family members, to friends, to volunteers. And that has really, it's been tough for everybody, residents who live here, employees, family members, the whole community. And so that's really had to pivot, not only our nurse aides, but everybody who works in, a healthcare sector, to now not only be a caregiver, but to be a family member and a hand holder, like Donna said, and a friend and entertainment. And all of those things that we, have had help. And, just when you can't see your family member or your husband for 5 months in a face-to-face capacity, that plays a big impact on everybody. And so I think that, the biggest change is not that we can't give a hug anymore, and we're not supposed to, in those difficult times, and hold that hand and, do the things that we've always been for that human connection. And it's really hard. So I think, just keeping our heads up, and, our employees have had to become stronger emotionally, just because, we are here day in and day out with these folks. And, again, too, caregiving, and I thought about this morning, is that old cliche saying about you can't help somebody. When the oxygen masks fall from the airplane, you put yours on first. And so, too, taking care of our employees and each other so that we may show up for the residents in this difficult time. So I could go on about this because things have changed so drastically, but we continue to pivot and, show up for our people.
And continuing to pivot and trying to make those relationships with your clients and patients as strong as possible, and make them as comfortable as possible and feel taken care of. How vital is it for you to have a large pool of nurse aides, to be able to have a vast force out there for your patients?
Extremely important right now. And as Donna mentioned before, a shortage of healthcare workers is not a new thing for us. It's been, unfortunately, something that we've dealt with for a long time. However, the issue has been exacerbated with COVID. So, as you've seen in the media, and as I'm sure Southwestern's guidance is, anybody who has any symptoms or has a test that comes back positive, or, there's lots of people that are out of work right now because we have to follow these guidelines and keep our people safe, keep our residents safe. So if we have an employee that can't come to work, we still have people to take care of. And so, having a large pool is essential to us because, we are 24/7, we never close. And, so again, there's always people to take care of. And I think it's just really important too, to like Donna mentioned before, there's people with young kids and sick parents at home and maybe sick themselves. So life still happens. But our main concern is to take care of the lives that are in here, and that requires a lot of folks. And just to mention too, there's some facilities in our local community that have cases of COVID in their building, and when that happens, the workforce almost has to double, and that's because you have these isolated areas not only now, in your building, but you can't go out of that unit and into another part of the building. And so, that's an unfortunate situation when we have COVID in a nursing facility. It's scary for everybody. We lose some employees because of, extenuating circumstances, and nobody's at fault for that. But again, we still have people to take care of, and requiring a larger and larger pool of nurses and aides.
So when you're building that pool of nurse aides and finding people that have the qualifications and have the qualities themselves to be useful and be well working with your clients and with your patients, what do you look for in people when hiring nurse aides? Because obviously it's not just a job. This is more than a job. What are the qualities that you look for, compassion and things like that are required?
You took the word right out of my mouth. I think care and compassion are the first two things that we look for, and dependability. We've talked about what it takes to show up every day, especially now. So just those things, and I always say it's not a characteristic, but if you keep in mind the importance of quality of care, I think that's what makes people successful in this. And I don't like to call it an industry because that sounds, not personal, and we're talking about humans, but in this field, in what we do every day. So again, I was talking about if people don't show up, and that's that dependability part, and just honestly drive, because to get up and to come to work every day and to be strong physically and emotionally takes a little extra drive. So I always say it takes special people to do this, but there's a lot of special people out there. And I would just give a little bit of, encouragement if there's students out there that are like, well, I'm not sure, should I, shouldn't I? I always say, give it a chance. You don't know until you try it. If it's not for you, maybe there's another element of the nursing home or the healthcare sector. Maybe it's not a nurse or a nurse aide, but maybe you fit somewhere in there in a different capacity.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jessica. So through all of this, it sounds like SCC and with our nurse aide program is working to get our students to where they can be that compassionate, flexible, driven students and get out into the workforce. So thank you again. And Donna or Mike, you have any last thoughts to wrap us up?
I would just like to say that becoming a nursing assistant is frequently, as Jessica pointed out, the gateway to other healthcare fields. And I encourage anyone that's out there listening that watches this podcast to give us a try. I am available. I will do everything within my power to help you be successful. And my big plug is that in one semester, you can increase your employability and have jobs available. So we're not talking about 2 years of your life. We're talking about this summer it was 8 weeks, and that's been that's been a big part of my pandemic. But anyway, typically in one semester, you can be eligible to sit for the North Carolina state nurse aid test and to be employable and to be out there helping people.
Boy, I can verify that. Donna and Career Services work really closely together. And I should just say that, if you walk in the door of Southwestern, whether the door is our website or you pick up the phone and call us, or you do come see us, you are welcome. Any student or prospective student is welcome to meet with Career Services, Jody Waldrop, our career counselor, or myself. We can provide career assessments. You can go on to our website at Career Services. Just put Career Services in the search window at an SCC's website, and it'll take you to our website for Career Services at SCC, and you can take the career coach assessment. And I'll just tell you what, if you are wired to help people, if you want to be in a helping role, if you're social, if you care about others and have that empathy, if you're looking for gainful employment and if you're looking for a fast track to being a work ready, highly marketable skilled professional, then nurse's aide program might just be for you. And when that happens, we make referrals. I have walked students. Jody has walked students upstairs to meet with Donna Connor, and they learn all about the program and often come out just with truly inspired and with a sense of purpose. And just half a year later, they are out in our workforce providing help for all kinds of people who need it, and at the same time supporting their families. And so this is a truly great avenue for employment. Broadening things, I'll say, Jessica, thank you for being here. We have employers like Jessica who post these jobs every day or every week in our SCC job board. And so also on the Career Services website, you can actually go and see jobs that are posted, real jobs for students, for alumni, and really for any member of the general community. We allow everybody to view these resources on our website. So I just invite you all to do so. And that's really important to us. And so that being said, Career Services is a comprehensive career development program, and we're here to support everybody. You can even visit with employers like Jessica. Jessica, you're going to be the first to hear this, because Jody and I just sat down and figured out our program schedule for the fall semester, all kinds of, workshops that we give on how to write resumes or use our technology on our website to prepare for interviews, to set up a LinkedIn type of a profile that's effective. But we also set our career fair dates. And so we're going to have not one, but 2 virtual career fairs. It's looking like they're not published yet, but it's looking like they'll be on September 30th and October 14th. And they will be a little bit different in format than other virtual career fairs. If you want to meet with, say, Jessica, then the Smoky Mountain Rehab. What's the full name of your Smoky Mountain? I don't want to get it wrong, Jessica.
It's Smoky Mountain Health and Rehabilitation Center.
Smoky Mountain Health and Rehabilitation Center may well just be scheduled, for example, at 10 a.m. on that particular day, and you'll be able to just drop in on us and visit with Jessica for 10 minutes and learn about her opportunities and proceed from there to get a job in our community. And so I just want to thank everybody. And Cameron, it's been really great talking with you about this today.
You as well. Thank you so much for making us aware of all those opportunities. And thank you again to all of you for tuning in, and be sure to catch us next Friday using the same Google Meet link or podcast provider that you found us on this week. And we will see you soon for another episode of our Career Connections.